We don't have money. I mean, Israel has national health care, and we can't even get national health care here. Something is seriously wrong with the system.
Something is seriously wrong with the system. Looks like there were a couple dozen protesters. Hopefully, we see more protesters at future events. Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up. Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. Fortress Corporate America playing out in San Francisco as JPMorgan held day one of its annual healthcare investors conference, where there were protests as well as very, very heightened levels of security a month or so after the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. And some of the big boys in the health insurance industry, including Cigna, decided not to show up. I wonder why. We're going to get into all of that, as well as show you some of the protests. First, reminder, if you don't know, Status Coup is currently on the ground in Western North Carolina, covering the ongoing disaster in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. As far as I know, we're the only independent outlet currently there covering displaced hurricane victims, nearly freezing to death outside, and many of them facing eviction from their temporary FEMA housing. So definitely check out our videos and live streams that we've been doing in North Carolina, and support us if you can, statuscoup.com/join. Now, what's been playing out in San Francisco at this conference is security that you and I certainly don't get for our daily endeavors. It's an annual tradition for a cohort of people in suits and lanyards to flood Union Square in early January for the high-powered JPMorgan Healthcare Conference, now in its 43rd year. But long-term attendees noticed a difference Monday: the overwhelming security presence at the venue, the Westin St. Francis Hotel, was hard to miss. Quote, "There was a lot of security, not just at the gate, but inside too. I was amazed," said healthcare executive and investor Pankaj Singhal, who quipped that he's attended the conference for too many years. "I've never seen armed police inside the hotel before." Well, we got to have those police to protect these corporate CEOs, right? Conference organizers and the San Francisco PD ramped up security in the wake of the December shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. San Francisco PD said in a statement that it had canceled some of their officers' time off to ensure that sufficient officers are on hand throughout the conference. We have to have enough armed police to protect the 500 health insurance companies, big pharma companies, biotech companies, artificial intelligence companies. We have to protect all of the people screwing you, the American people. Now, I'm not calling for violence, but boy, is this a whole lot of more protection for the oligarchs and the plutocrats than regular Americans, say in schools or malls or concerts, etc. Metal barriers line the entrance to the Westin St. Francis, which was flanked by private security guards checking badges and watched over by clusters of cops across the street. 11 large firms, including insurer Cigna, healthcare provider Centene, and pharmacy chain Walgreens, dropped out of the conference. We'll have more on that shortly. Some attendees are on higher guard. Bausch & Lomb CEO Brent Saunders told the Wall Street Journal he expects to travel by car between engagements at the conference instead of walking. Quote, "You're paying for those guys to be here," he said of his private security. "Let them do their job." San Francisco PD said it didn't have information about any credible threats to San Francisco, but was working with local, state, and federal law enforcement partners to keep the event safe. For biotech CEO Jazalt Huzman, who has been attending the event for more than a decade, personal security has rarely been top of mind, but this year was different. Quote, I didn't initially feel nervous, but I got a message from a friend this morning saying, be vigilant. He has spotted the increase in security around Union Square, but the biggest surprise to him Monday was the sunshine. Oh, wonderful. It wasn't raining. Let's tell you a little bit more. This is from the Wall Street Journal. More than 500 companies ranging from drug makers such as Pfizer and wholesalers such as Cencora to dozens of biotechnology companies are scheduled to give presentations to investors. Scores of parallel events and panels will be held at nearby locations. Insurance companies typically take a back seat at the biotech company focused conference. That includes United Health, Cigna, and CVS, parent company to Aetna, none of which are presenting. Not surprising they're not presenting, considering their fraud and predatory behaviors have been on massive spotlight in the month and a half since the murder of Brian Thompson. Frankly, the overwhelming support you're seeing of Luigi Mangione, the suspect and alleged killer of Brian Thompson. Now, I want to show you some of the details of some of the companies that backed out of this conference. Cigna, Centene, Walgreens drop out of JPMorgan conference. 11 companies overall that we know of have dropped out. Cigna and Centene have bowed out of this year's JPMorgan conference, a possible sign that leaders of large healthcare companies are looking to avoid public appearances. The health insurance giants are among 11 major companies that dropped out of the industry's main investor event. Others that no longer appear on its final list: Walgreens, medical device maker BD, insurer Oscar Health, physician practice management firm Agilon Health, a medical device maker Inari Medical, biotech firm Applied Therapeutics, and a couple others. But sure seems that AI, artificial intelligence, which, as I've reported, United Health and others have been using, and Brian Thompson, while he was alive, was presiding over United Health's deployment and elevation of deploying AI to deny more claims and kill more Americans. Well, Arianna Huffington of the Huffington Post, I guess she left or stepped down from Huffington Post years ago and now runs some better sleep thing. Well, she was there and she's celebrating AI. In her Twitter, this is a very exciting moment in healthcare with so many forces converging in ways that could lead to a much better system that works for more people. We have the hyper personalization made possible by AI. We have a new generation of public health officials and experts that are recognize the science and impact of healthy daily behaviors on healthy outcomes, that medicine plus healthier habits beat either alone. I'm anxiously awaiting her next tweet about how most Americans can't practice healthy habits because most Americans, even those insured, can't actually get the health care that they are entitled to. But thank you, Arianna, for extolling the virtues of AI. I want to show you some of the protests that went on outside the conference around the metal barriers and fortress corporate America security. This one was put on by Steve Zeltzer, who I interviewed over the weekend. He's the chair of the United Front Committee for a Labor Party. Let's show you some of the protesters outside.
Healthcare is a human right. It should not be a business model.
Dozens held up signs calling on the companies to put people before profits.
These are mega millionaires who are making billions of profits off of the backs of patients, and they should not be allowed to do that.
When I see people denied health care, that makes me sick.
Steve Zeltzer helped organize the protest. He says the healthcare system is failing Americans.
Why should people be denied health care in the richest country of the world? At the same time, we're spending trillions of dollars for wars abroad, Ukraine, Israel, and yet we don't have money. I mean, Israel has national health care, and we can't even get national health care here. Something is seriously wrong with the system.
Something is seriously wrong with the system. Looks like there were a couple dozen protesters. Hopefully, we see more protesters at future events. But this shows you, boy, is there a much, much heightened, urgent response to security for a certain class of people by the U.S. government, by state governments, by state law enforcement, compared to the proletariat. We don't get this type of security in our daily lives. And I don't want, Fortress America for us. But boy, a healthcare CEO is killed, and they basically build a moat and fort around this conference. It is quite the different standard. I want to also show you a clip from Jamie Dimon, CEO of JPMorgan, who helped tank the global economy in 2008 and 2009, but was never charged or sent to prison like the rest of the bankers who tanked the global economy. He was on 60 Minutes, mostly a puff piece, but he was kind of sort of challenged about, the tale of two cities we live in, the gross income inequality. Apparently, Jamie Dimon thinks that the amount of billionaires and the discrepancy between their wealth and the rest of us, totally unrelated. Let's take a listen.
A lot of Americans have gotten very rich. They've gotten filthy rich. We've had unbelievable numbers of billionaires come up. Billionaires. Why? What's out of whack here?
I think you have to be very careful to say what's out of whack. You want a healthy economy, and a really healthy economy lifts up all citizens. You want to help all Americans grow the economy. You can well at the moon, that's not going to grow the economy. And if there are unfair things that created some of that wealth, they should be fixed.
But I'm not hearing you say there's something wrong here, that these billionaires are growing like poppy. And I mean, what is it, the tax laws?
If I was king for a day, I would probably change a bunch of the tax laws too, which I'm not going to give you specifics on. It won't reduce it as much as you seem to think it should be reduced.
No, but I'm interested that you're not saying this is wrong, this is not working.
I think the wrong part is that the bottom 30% didn't do better, not that the top 0.1% did so well.
Why not? What's wrong with saying that?
Because they may be unrelated.
Yeah, it's just some coincidence that the bottom 30%, by the way, it's more than the bottom 30%. It's just a coincidence that they're doing so poorly, and people are having to ration insulin, and people are being bankrupted by medical debt, and people are having to basically choose to slowly die or quickly die because they can't afford surgeries or can't afford medicine or can't afford the MRI that United Health denied them for. It's just a coincidence that all that's happening while 500 of the wealthiest companies in America, including for-profit health insurance, including biotech, including big pharma, gather to celebrate AI, celebrate their processes for squeezing as much profit out of you, the American patient, as possible, and think of more ways to screw you and provide some return for investors off the backs of you, the American people's health. Totally unrelated. I wonder why. 60 Minutes has him on to push that nonsense, but doesn't have a piece with the folks that I have interviewed, the people expressing their healthcare horror stories, whistleblowers who worked for United Health and elsewhere, describing their fraudulent practices that are illegal in other countries. I wonder why. We will cover more developments as the conference unfolds. It goes on all week in San Francisco. Thank you for your support. And remember, we are independent. So support us if you can. StatusCoup.com/join.